Hey, welcome to today's live stream. I appreciate you checking it out. If you're here for the first time, consider subscribing if you are down with what I'm talking about here. Talking about the events unfolding in our world, shining the light of awareness on evil and what looks to be evil, right? We're parsing it out here. I'm everywhere on social media and YouTube, all social platforms at GMarkPhillips, different content in different places. Today, let's have a discussion about ICE. I think it seems shady. If you know me, everything the government does seems shady, but that's a topic for a different story. So, a while back, I shared a meme of Audrey Plaza. She was, sitting, her demeanor is kind of deadpan in her comedies. And the meme was like, the government wants to ... And she's like, no, I don't want to do that. No. And that's how I am. I don't want the government to do anything. I'm very sketched out by them all the time. I think they are super sus. And that's what I'm seeing. So let me start by playing this short video. I forget this guy's name, but he's sharing a lot of super awesome information. Here we go.
Is the goal here actually immigration control, or is there something else?
Let me see if I can get the video to come up.
Is the goal here actually...
I'm not sure why it was black screen.
Is the goal here actually immigration control, or is there something else going on? For context, ICE is now the highest funded federal law enforcement agency in history. It's bigger than the FBI, DEA, ATF, U.S. Marshals, and Bureau of Prisons combined. It's bigger than most militaries around the world. Now, by some measures, it's even bigger than the U.S. Marine Corps. Now, they tell us it's all about keeping America safe, right? Protecting Americans. But I recently had on Greg Stoker, a former U.S. Army Ranger, on Breaking Points, and here's what he had to say.
Just like the goal in Iraq and Afghanistan wasn't to win the wars, it was to make a lot of money and have endless wars. Well, we no longer have that kind of power projection, and we can't do that anymore. But what we can do is wage a forever civilian war in our own territory.
That's right. As our power continues to diminish abroad, the next natural course of action for the military-industrial complex is to then turn that military inward towards, not necessarily illegals or whatever like they're claiming, but onto actual American citizens. As always, let me know what you think.
So after I watched that video, this guy's, his handle on Instagram is at 5149 JAMESLI. By the way, thank you. Hello to you. 10,000 views on the video. After I watched that, and we're going to jump into one of these comments here. This guy said he taught me something. I learned things from the comments. I learned things from your comments. Thanks for the thumbs up. I appreciate you. Let me see. It was a term I'd never heard before. It was like Focalts principle, and we're going to talk about it here. Let me see if I saved it. But
the goal here actually...
let me see if I saved it, because I want to jump into this. Principle. I'd never heard of it before. It makes sense. Focalts theory. Okay, here we go. Focalt. Philosophy, power, and knowledge. So let me see here. Let me see if it was... I thought I had it. Let me see if it's on my other device here. Hey, thanks for subscribing. I appreciate you. Okay. There it is right here. Thanks for... Sorry about the delay. Okay, what it is called, it's called Focalts Boomerang, right? And it's Foucault Boomerang. Focalts Boomerang refers to the idea that the oppressive techniques used in colonial context eventually return to affect the colonizers' own societies. influencing their methods of control and governance. This concept highlights how colonial practices can shape domestic policies and policing in the West, creating a cycle of repression that impacts both colonized and colonizer populations. Blew my mind. I'd never heard of anything about it. However, having said that, I am familiar with what Ken O'Keefe talks about, and I agree with this. He says Gaza's coming to us, and I think it is coming to us. And this is how it's coming. I'd never heard of this before. Focalts Boomerang. I didn't know about it, but I think that's what ICE is. I think that's what ICE is up to. Again, I don't trust anything the federal government does, and so whenever they're doing something, I'm like, no, thank you. So I've got an article from Newsweek here. Title is ICE budget now bigger than most of the world's militaries. Congrats, Bruce Willis, looking better. Thank you. Thank you. ICE budget set to skyrocket. You know, Trump's 1,000-page bill could reshape the U.S. immigration system with a significant increase in funding for expanding law enforcement and detention networks while increasing the cost of legally immigrating to the U.S. I don't like government to grow at all. I mean, I was sketched out when government was growing. What was it during Bush 2's time? I don't think that was Transportation and Safety Administration. I think it was, what was it? There was some agency that they created after 9/11. Maybe it was TSA. Let's see. Stop blocking me on Grindr. Ha ha. Funny. Misinterpreting. Okay, help me understand if I'm misinterpreting. Yeah, it was whatever. Yes, Homeland Security. Thank you. Sketchy. Anytime the government is growing, what in the, so let's go. We got FBI, CIA, NSA, TSA, Homeland Security. Now we got ICE, and ICE has a bigger budget than, as if that video is correct, all of them, all of the big ones. It's wild. It is wild what's going down. I mean, and then you pair it with what Trump was saying in 2016, that we want a biometric entry-exit visa tracking system. It is clear to me, and I don't have a degree in rocket science, that they are not interested in the immigration. They're interested in all people. They just want to bring the hammer down on all people. It's super sketchy. All right, let's see what you got to say here. You're a handsome man. Thank you. I appreciate that. Deadpool. Yeah, I get that sometimes too. Mr. Clean. Yep. Hey, dude, have you been in? I am not in chemo. Let's see. Can you just step back? Until Jesus comes back, we have work to do here. We don't just sit around and wait for him to come back. At least I don't. Everyone can do what they want to do. I'm a steward of God's creation. Okay. Yeah, follow the money. Anyway, let's go down here. So this ICE fund versus world tops defense budgets. So United States is funding $895 billion for ICE. China's defense budget, allegedly, based on this article on Newsweek, is $266 billion. And then Russia, 126, India, 75, etc. That's pretty, I can't even wrap my mind around it, but it jives. And I just think, man, what are Americans thinking that are still on the Trump train? I mean, I just don't think they've fully put it on paper about what's going down and what's unraveling. We don't have the money, and every time the government spends money, the population, they don't have money, so the money is printed. Every time the government spends money on silly things like this that they caused, right? Remember, problem, reaction, solution. The government caused this problem. And I don't look at it as Biden or the Democrats. I just look at it as government, because I don't see left and right. I just see two wings of the same bird. The puppeteers behind the strings, pulling the strings. It's wild. It's wild. They're just going berserk. And that's why when I saw that comment on Focalts principle, I was like, hey, this seems legit. All right, let me see what you guys are saying here. Mark of the Beast coming soon, maybe. I'm keeping an eye out for it for sure, man. It is wild out there. Let's see. Everything you see is smoke and mirrors. Yeah, sick bastards. Let's turn the TV off. Yes, I do want to turn I don't watch the news, but I do want to be awake and aware of what's going on in our world because, I live here. And again, back to the God's steward. I'm a steward of God's creation. He says, occupy until he comes. God bless. Yeah, that's amen to you, brother, too. That's what I think. It frustrates me sometimes. I say this with love and appreciation. It frustrates me sometimes when I see the comment of like, Jesus is coming back. I'm like, well, what can we do until that time? I mean, I'm here to walk in faith and turn thoughts to things and be a part of the solution, not a part of the. I'm not waiting. I don't want to be going up to, if I do go to heaven, I don't want to be going up there and say, I was down there waiting for you. I'm not waiting. I'm taking the initiative and exercising the free will that God gave me to do God's work in the world. It frustrates me to that degree. And I know that, and that's why I go back to what are the two massive forms of control in the world: government and religion. They just keep people just wait and stay, and I'm just over it. I'm over it. Those numbers are BS. They might be, but it's still sketchy. Let's see. The only thing that matters is sorry, this is far away from me. Abusing the only thing, yeah. Nothing else matters. Okay, exactly. Two wings, same bird. Two wings, same demon. I agree with you. Bryan Cranston. I got that the other day. They said if I grew a mustache, I'd be looking like Bryan Cranston. All right, let me go down here and share this other thing with you here. This one, pending the passage, which it did pass, Trump's bill could mean a massive increase in ICE funding as part of an immigration enforcement. Again, I just don't understand. Well, like the government created that problem. Why can't some Americans see this? And I think Americans do. I think many Americans do. Look at all you people. You see it. I don't agree with what's happening in America right now. I blame half of the population for voting in Trump. Well, I mean, that could be argued that half of the population voted in Biden and people weren't happy with Biden. See, I think we need to move past the left-right narrative and look at what's really going down. The government is moving the ball down the field, whether Biden's in or Trump's in, I don't even think Trump's in charge. Trump has bosses, right? Everyone in this world has a boss, and the boss are the people with the money. And most of the times, those people have garnered that money through nefarious deeds, wars and financial collapses and insider trading and deception. Look at how Rothschilds created their fortune back in the 1700s. During the Napoleon era, right? They're deceptive. On one hand, you're like, well played, but on the other hand, as long as people know about deceptive characters in our world, then my work is done. I don't want to change people's minds. I just want to inform them and let them make up their own decision. I believe that if you present people with the information, hey, the money changers in this world are deceivers, master deceivers. I believe if you present them with the information, they'll come to their own conclusion. The whole reason I started speaking out about what's happening during COVID time was I saw people under the influence of the government, the media machine, basically under the influence of bad characters in the world, right? The money in the world. The puppeteers were pulling the strings and using their resources, their assets in government, media, in entertainment industry. Remember, all the stars said, hey, you got to go do it. Was in entertainment, and also in people of political influence and civic influence and religious influence. Remember, all the religions said, hey, yeah, you should go get that thing because it's an act of love. To me, I saw all these people exposed as assets or employees of the system, and I was like, okay, this is definitely next level. Definitely next level. Unlike anything I'd ever seen in my life, and others too. I mean, many have seen it. What do I think of Muslims? That's a great question. I appreciate you asking that. I'll say it like this. I do not think Muslims are the source of our problems in America, because Muslims don't run the Federal Reserve. Muslims don't run central banking cabals. Muslims don't run the entertainment industry, poisoning the hearts and minds of Americans, and spreading propaganda. Muslims do not run the music industry, to my knowledge, destroying culture and society at an alarming rate and undermining our whole world. Muslims do not, to my knowledge, run multinational corporations that are poisoning food and water and all sorts of other things. Muslims do not send our military overseas to destroy their own countries. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I believe strongly in the Hegelian dialectic. I've seen it over and over again. I think our government, the biggest government, most superpower of the world right now, uses that to advance a nefarious agenda. Right? I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't think they're the problem. I see another group of people as the problem. Bad actors. Inflation has gone up, wars have gotten worse, and the divide at home is worse. Amen to that comment. That's what I'm talking about. Like nothing, the trend is not going well for America. You nailed it. You nailed it. It's wars and inflation and domestic division amongst our country and just everything. And yet some people still are looking to the government to solve this. I mean, what is going on? I think a lot of it's created by covert action. That covert action are the ones that have destroyed a lot of countries around the world in the name of freedom and democracy, which is really just making money. They're gangsters. Smedley Butler called it back in the day. He said he was a gangster for capitalism. Yeah. I don't watch Fox. I'm assuming you say do Fox and look around. I don't know. I'm assuming you're talking about Fox News. I don't watch Fox News. I think all the news is compromised. I really do. Accountable for money stolen from Democrats. They've all stolen. They're all guilty back there. They're all culpable back in Washington's. Americans are a bit thick. I'm assuming you're kind of talking about, thick heads. I agree, well, let's talk about that point. Let me talk about that. And I'm just as guilty. I played the good little consumer game. I played the bread and circuses game for a lot of my life I've been on the simplicity train for a long time, in many years, maybe 10, 15 years. It's a continual learning and a continual process. But COVID certainly woke me up to the bread and circuses game, and how we really will buy a lot of shit that's BS. Not only physical shit, but also ideologies. We buy a lot of junk coming out of China. I don't know if you all have seen the movie The Story of Stuff, or the documentary The Story of Stuff. It's could be 10, 15 years old. She talks about the life cycle of products, and she's like, yeah, they use raw materials to make the product. They ship it over, high carbon, whatever. I'm not into the climate change game, by the way, but I just noticed, again, back to being a good steward of God's creation. So they ship it over here. We use it for a while, sometimes just like a few minutes, and then we throw it in the garbage, in the dump. And then the dumps get, filled up. It's a wild documentary. I think she should make like a Story of Stuff too. But it's good. We buy useless shit from China, and gives America's the land of abundance. You go to these trade conferences and they give you all the merch with the brand logos on and stuff. Most of that stuff is garbage. Most of the stuff in America is garbage. And then we buy silly ideas too. So I think Americans are pretty gullible. I think it's probably a result of being dumbed down in the education system. A few years ago, I dove down the Charlotte Iserby, and what was it? Is it John Taylor Gatto? The Dumbing Down of America. We're decades into the dumbing down of America, and it's showing. It's showing. This is why many parents are like saying, "Peace out. I'm going to leave the education system." Trump 2032. Yikes. Are we great yet? Yeah, exactly. Are we great yet? Holy shees. No apples and oranges, bro. Just stop. Yeah, Hollywood. Where else, right? Entertainment capital of the world. Entertainment capital of the world. Evil has one job on earth: to beguile the world. Amen to that. Yeah. And, those people who worship Satan, my understanding is their motto is do as thou wilt. Do as thou wilt. If you can get one over on someone, go for it. That's why I speak out, one of the many people speaking out. Evil is in this world. I never saw it before. I had a huge awakening. Like I said, during COVID, I was like, son of a gun. These Christians were right. They're right. I never saw it, which I feel kind of silly about, but I think, and that's why I try to bridge the gap to people who can't see it. And I like sharing knowledge and information, because before COVID, my whole mission for, my podcast, Enhancing the Human Experience, and my content was to help enhance the human experience, share knowledge and information to have a better life in health and wellness, in psychology, etc. All these things that can improve our experience. And then when COVID went down, I was like, oh shit, there's a bigger problem. And there's no amount of, eat healthy and think healthy and all those things that will counteract the evildoers in our world, because it's like weeds in a garden. If you plant some good seeds, which that is eating right and thinking right and doing good deeds, but there's weeds in your garden too that are also growing, your garden will never be what it could be. It will never be a good garden. You've got to pull those weeds out, and you pull the weeds out, in my opinion, by shining the light of awareness on them and physically pulling them out in many cases, right? Awareness will solve the problem. This is what I sometimes think about. A lot of people are like, I don't want to make waves. I don't want to cause trouble. I don't want to get in trouble. We're already in trouble. That's the thing. The bad guys in the world have an agenda, and they're going to work it no matter what the good guys do. No matter what we do, they're going to work their agenda, because they have no choice, right? It is a do or die type of situation. If they win, we're screwed. If we win, they're screwed. It's an intense situation. It's an intense situation, but that's where the bread and circuses come in and distract people from what's really going down. This guy speaking facts. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Jesus has better things to do than worry about your crazy nation. You're all to blame for the state you're in. I am to blame. You are 100% correct. It is. I take full responsibility for the state of the world. And like I said, like I mentioned earlier, I was just as deceived as the next person, maybe even more. I'll take full responsibility for it. Consumerism, entertaining myself with movies and good food and whatnot. I was down with that. And that's why I speak out about it now. And to your point, I feel personally responsible for all the people that our government unalived over in Iraq and Libya and Afghanistan and Yemen and all the other places. Again, I'm part of the problem. I was part of the problem. I now am part of the solution, right? And I do what I can. Trilaterals and yes, Bilderberg's correct. I agree. Yes, exactly. We need to deploy to Iran. Why? I'm assuming you're being sarcastic. Trump is just straight up mean spirited. I don't like the vibe of the whole. I didn't used to see it either. But I do think I do see it now. I was watching a short clip the other day, and they said we're talking about Epstein. Who I guess Epstein had like a big deposition back in the day, and he said, forget who I was watching this on, and he said he mentioned about Trump that he is a what did he say? What was the word? It was something along that lines of like, yeah, he's not a good guy. And then the commenter was like, if Epstein's telling the world you're not a good guy, that's something to be said. And also, what's funny? Remember back in the day of the Celebrity Apprentice when they would, that show, one of the shows was at Donnie Deutsch. Deutsch runs or ran, I don't know if he still does, a big advertising firm in New York, and they had staged the show at the advertising firm because they were doing something, one of their promos. And then later after that, some talk show host was asking Donnie Deutsch, I guess he grew up around Trump or was in the same neighborhood as Trump. And they asked Donnie Deutsch, like, what's he like? And he said, yeah, he does. He's all about business. He doesn't have a lot of close friendships, and he has kind of a weird demeanor about him in the sense that he's always looking to win. Do as thou wilt. Does that sound familiar? Maybe. I tend to lean that direction these days. I just thought that was interesting. Apparently, again, Donnie Deutsch knew him. Research astronauts gone wild. Okay. Don't spread COVID, but also let's keep Walmart open, liquor stores. Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are the kind of things that wake people up. The other thing that wake people up, and I was thinking about this the other day. So most people, I'm assuming most people know about the Tuskegee experiments and the radiation experiments and St. Louis in the 50s and 60s, spraying radioactive dust in the air, and Corpus Christi. I'm assuming most people know the federal government was involved in those, and Bill Clinton apologized. I don't know how he drew the short straw 2 times. Bill Clinton apologized for Tuskegee experiments and radiation experiments. I do not understand how Americans, knowing that our government has a history of doing medical experiments on people in bad ways and apologizing for them, I just can't wrap my mind around how they got themselves caught up in that. But you know what I thought? I thought to myself, that is the power of propaganda. That's the power of deception and propaganda. And it is nothing. It is nothing. It is something to be aware of. Wild, right? We're all susceptible. That's why I don't watch the news. That's why I don't listen to politicians. If I do listen to them, I listen to them with a super discerning eye. Like I turn my discernment up 1,000%, because these people, I think if if Americans knew what the whole job of the CIA is to come up with new and inventive ways to manipulate people, mind control, and it's wild. It's wild. Whatever they need to do, I'm doing good. How are you doing? We got to pray for them and share the gospel. We do have to pray for them. We have to pray for all of us. And I need to pray more. I don't do enough praying. Praying that, and I do see people are seeing through a lot of it. Every time they move, the only question is they're making some big moves. Donald Trump giving billions of dollars to the pharmaceutical industry. That's a bad thing for humanity. Now him giving, was it millions, 300 million to Palantir and building this, surveillance, trying to build a surveillance system. That's another big move. Now the ICE thing, I just hope that Americans do. You know what? Let's pray that Americans wake up and see what's going down in the world. And because I think most of the rest of the world knows more than we do. I feel, and myself included, that Americans are in the dark more than the rest of the world. Hello from Russia. Thanks for checking out. I appreciate you. Money is what runs the world. Yes, it is. I believe what Ken O'Keefe said is true when he said, money, the financial system is the head of the snake. And that's how they get agents. That's how, bad actors get agents to turn on humanity. They're like, hey, do you want to get rich? Sure, what do I have to do? Well, you just have to hose over your fellow human beings. You have to deceive them like we're doing. And many people take them up on it, you know, although I think their time is drawing nigh. Trump went to private Jewish school, is a Kabbalist, and was awarded there. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. That's my understanding too. Again, waking up to the lies and deception. And let's throw on there. Let's add to that list. MAGA is the fifth, and my understanding, highest level of being in the Church of Satan. That's wild. That's wild. Just crazy stuff going on. I learned a lot from my friend Brandon Kroll on Instagram. I've had him a guest on my show a couple times. You can find him in the interview series. He is a deep diver. My favorite deep divers are, I like Larry Johnston. I like Brandon Kroll. I like Brother Theo here on YouTube. I learned so much from that guy. That guy's doing God's work too. No, I'm not a dim. Thin foul hat. Yeah. I'm happy. I'm a proud tinfoil hat wearer these days. Just subscribed. First time here. Thank you. I appreciate you very much. Okay. Tommy Robinson. Is he the British guy that America's doing great? I don't know. I don't think it is. I think the trend is not very great. I think it's different group. Wonder what he's talking about. Go to chat. It's the JEWS. Yeah. I like to distinguish between good JEWS and bad JEWS. Schumer talking behind President Trump, understanding him. Get a Kango hat? I'm assuming you mean Kangol? Kangol hat? I like Kangol hats. Uh-huh. President 2028, you're too kind. That's funny. Dude, be a decent person and just say who you hate. I would respect you much more. I don't hate anyone. I don't hate anyone. If I have a thought, I'm going to say it. I may say it in a covert way, a sneaky way, using winking and spelling, but I don't hate anyone. Yes, watch all sides of news and then connect the dots. And that just requires critical thinking and knowing history. I no longer really don't longer think about what's going to happen in the future. I spend 95% of my time, maybe all of it, looking at what's already happened in the past. Like, I know you will know them by their fruits. Right? What happened during the Great Depression? Well, some shady stuff went down during the Great Depression. What happened during the 2008 financial collapse? Well, some shady stuff went down. What happened during the Affordable Health Care Act, aka Obamacare? Well, some shady stuff. Was it 2011? That was a long time ago. And our healthcare system I don't see it being any better than it was. And now my understanding, and you got to fact check me on this, is that Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill is going to is making hospitals in rural areas maybe going to shut down. I mean, they clearly want us in cities. Yeah, I do have a lot on my mind. Word salad. That's my specialty. You know it. Every day making them up right here. Let's see, sir, you're describing capitalism and a consumer society to a T. This is what the United States is founded on. I don't know why we're discussing it. It is very simple. It is for the few, not the many. Yeah, it is. It is for the few. Although, it has worked for many people, maybe not all people. I don't know. I don't know if any government works for all people, but it has worked for many people for a long time. But as we've kind of burned the thing out, right? a while back, I shared a video in the Hot Topic series about he was explaining in his perception of what goes on around the world that the United States has exported its poverty to these third world countries by, exploiting their resources, exploiting their labor, getting the cheap goods, hence the stuff coming out of China, etc. And it made a lot of sense to me. And he basically talked about the United States, well, the government being like the HR of a company. They're not there to protect the workers. They're there to protect the company. And I was like, dang, that makes a lot of sense. So I think it has worked for a long time. And the reason people are waking up, and myself included, is because we're starting to feel a pinch. The carnivals, the ride's coming to an end. The carnival's closing, and people are like, oh, that's why I recommend people watch The Great Taking by David Rogers Webb, which is a fantastic documentary about what he feels they're going to do next. Because I don't think they're going to write a debt note from the American people to bail out corporations and Wall Street and whoever else, because the money's not worth what it was back in 2008. I believe what he says is correct. What he thinks is going to happen is they'll sweep assets. Whatever you own, if it's collateralized by debt, real estate, cars, boats, whatever, even stocks and bonds is his theory, that they will, if it's collateralized by debt, they'll sweep it and say, oh, it has to be done for the greater good. Remember when, because those corporations, those people can't fail. Remember when 2008, when they said they're too big to fail? Main Street and local people, you don't matter. We have to save Wall Street. It's theft. It's basically theft at a grand level. These people are con artists. So again, referring to my friend Brandon Kroll, I mean, I really recommend you check him out. Just search him up on Instagram, or check out that interview on my in the interview series on my YouTube channel here. He's posting some. He's one of the most dedicated social media. Well, he's a Christian. He exposes the occult. He exposes the agenda. I mean, he's one of the most dedicated researchers I've ever seen in my life. The guy is a powerhouse. And he posted something the other day about just the nature of government and how it's not there. And many people have talked about this. It's not there to serve us. It's there to serve them and their people they work for. I mean, he's just a deep dive. I'm sorry to hear about your wife, my friend. Yeah, I had people affected by that as well. Yeah. Silver, gold, platinum. Yeah, oil. You can't express opposite views from a Democrat without them crying and trying to cancel you. I do agree with you. I don't want to, but I've noticed that. I don't know what it is. About the liberal mindset is they don't seem to want to engage, in my experience. And I don't know why, because I know I need to learn something from them. I can learn something from all people. And I feel a little bit at a loss because I'm not able to learn, and when I do work with them, either locally in civic situations or business situations, I find I have a lot in common with them. Again, as I go on my journey of awakening, I don't really go down the I'm a conservative, camp. I just say I'm a human being, and I'm like, yeah, and I have a lot in common with other human beings. I think we've been divided for far too long, and a lot of it is, implanted in our brain, like, oh, liberal, if you're a conservative, liberal bad. If you're a liberal, conservative bad. And I've been there too. But I do agree with your statement. I have noticed that in general, anecdotally from my own experience, and it is interesting, blah, blah, blah. That's what I do. I love to do word salads. To your comment, hates America, but won't leave. There's nowhere in the world that you can go to escape what's going down in what is happening, and the bad actors doing bad things from, and it's not from America. The power structures that run, it's a global power structure system. America is just part of the strong arm of the power structure system. There's nowhere you can go. Where are you going to go and be safe from the evil that's in our world? You're not. Like Abby Martin says, we're in the belly of the beast. We're in the empire. If the best opportunity to change the situation is us, it's us. Yeah, Fauci does need to answer. But remember, Fauci's just another puppet like Trump or like Biden or any of them. They'll just rotate him through, but the ball keeps moving down the field. The other day, my topic was taking personal responsibility for ourselves, and we've outsourced a lot of our decisions. When we look to anyone in a position of authority for guidance, we open ourselves up to be used and abused. And so my belief is the true answer is to take personal responsibility for all aspects of our life and let the cards fall how they will, right? Trusting anyone outside of ourselves is a potential for causing ourselves damage. Mhm. Are you a conspiracy? Yeah, I am a conspiracy theorist. I'm a proud conspiracy theorist all day long. How many jabs you take? I covered that in the other video. If you can't answer that question by what I'm talking about, being sus of everything government does, I'll answer that with this question. If I was dying of thirst in the desert, I wouldn't take a glass of water from those people. Does that answer your question? Maybe it will. I don't trust them. I didn't trust him before COVID, and I certainly don't trust him now because someone close to me had a VACCINE injury, and that woke me up a lot too. Because again, my experience, there's levels to this game. There's levels to the evil in this world, and you can go and say, "Oh yeah, there's bad people in the world," and you're like, "Oh shit, there's some really bad people in the world," and you're like, "Oh my gosh, it's bigger." I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of it. It's super deep. It's super deep. Yeah, you guys hate Earth but won't leave. No, technically he's been president for, you say he's been president for 7 months. Again, I used to support him. Let's be clear. He's actually been president for 4 years and 7 months. And, where are we at? Where's Fauci? I'm not a liberal. Well, okay, you ask me what part of illegal don't I get? I'll ask you, what part of government is growing by leaps and bounds and building forces to deploy against Americans don't you get? I think one question is fair to ask each other there. Have a bachelor and a master degree from University of Miami. Okay. To your comment, America has never been great. Sadly, I agree with you. It seems like, and maybe during the beginning when we were like less powerful, maybe we were like just not, like Dalai Lama says, if you can't help someone, at least don't hurt them. Maybe we just couldn't hurt people as bad. But as I look to the history of America and see the horrific crimes against humanity that we've done all over the world, it is wild. I agree with you. It's almost like we were created for this purpose, to be like the thugs going around the whole world busting heads. Spelling isn't speaking out. I'll agree with that. America was amazing prior to the Civil War. Yeah, I would not disagree with that. I'm not. I don't have all the information about how that was, but I do think, I mean, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. It could be one of those things. I do think there was some shady things going down in the Civil War, before the Civil War and around the Civil War, and I think it even ties back into the Rothschilds banking cabal. That's what I've understood. Let me know what you think. They're unbelievably wrong. Okay. Yeah, and everything my grandpa says makes sense. Yeah, we got to listen to the older generations because they're even trying to change reality right now in real time. Like, I mean, well, they've always been doing it, but they're doing it very quickly. You know, they, just like they rushed the VACCINE, and now future generations won't know what we went through. They'll just see, oh, you know, again, if you're not present and awake and aware, and you haven't done your research about the history of the crimes the federal government has created against people, you won't know. You'll go to the doctor, and the doctor will be like, "Oh, you're due for your COVID shot," and they're like, "Oh, is that recommended?" They're like, "Yeah, it's on the." Yet people won't know. This is why we have to speak out and tell these younger generations, you know, be skeptical of your government. Why do you pick and choose to talk about? I can't talk about all topics at one time. Um, yeah, martial law, the beast system awaits you. It potentially does, you know, it potentially does. I am from the USA. Yes, I am. Mhm. Ice is outside my door right now. What do? I wouldn't open it. Be here legally, just like every other country on the planet. Amen to that. Amen to that. Um, the only thing I would add to that is, you know, what caused and who caused the apparent illegal immigration problem in America, alleged illegal immigration problem in America. Well, the borders were open, and I don't think Joe Biden went down there and unlocked them with the key. I think they play good cop, bad cop. Joe Biden was the bad cop to many people, and he was the good cop to some people, right? It's all about perspective and what programming you've allowed, depending on whether you're left or right leaning. You know, they opened the border deliberately. And not only that, but they facilitated the movement of those people from other parts of the world, looks like mostly South America. Yeah, those people didn't walk all that distance. You can't walk. I mean, they're not ultra marathoners. They're just families and people. You don't walk all that distance. If you look into it, they had like points and buses and all the things. They were facilitated. They're using those people as as a way to overwhelm a system. It's clearly that's all they do is use people. They deceive people and use them to further their agenda. And the agenda they want is total chaos and collapse. Because when that happens, let's hope it doesn't happen. If that happens, then they can step in and go, okay, well, you've collapsed. Your society has collapsed. You've collapsed your society. Bad on you. We now have to impose a more authoritarian thing because you people can't govern yourselves. That's what they're going to say if it does collapse. I believe people are going to wake up in time to save the world, to whatever that means. Again, not trying to get involved in biblical events, but again, I'm here now. I see problems in the world now. I see evil, and I'm shining light of awareness on it to the degree that I can. We must become warriors. Amen to that statement. We must become warriors and it's bringing out the best in us. No one wants to engage in a fight, whether it's a verbal fight or a physical fight. But the reality is we're in it. You nailed it. You nailed it. Like I said earlier, the bad people in the world have an agenda. They are moving it forward no matter what we do. No matter what we do. The only way is for all of us to become warriors. Amen. You're a real humble guy. I try. Deport the lunatic left. See, I don't believe it's a left-right thing. It's a good bad thing. It's a good and evil thing, right? Evil makes it look like it's a left-right thing because kind of along the lines of the greatest trick the devil ever pulled is convincing the world he didn't exist. Like he exists. The evil is not the left or the right. I believe the evil is the very small group of people that have a bunch of money and or are tied in with religion in the world that are doing bad things, The triad, the Vatican, the City of London, and Washington, D.C. Do it that what you will. That's where I look. If you go down the road long enough, my experience has been if you follow the trail of breadcrumbs, it will lead you to some biblical things. Hence why I got real close to Christianity over the last handful of years. I'm like, criminy. I'm not pro-Israel. No, I'm not. Israel is, to my belief is Israel is a fake state created by bankers for nefarious reasons and or business reasons. And Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration made it look like Israel was created by England. It's not. Money goes to government and says, hey, we want these things done. Make it look like the people want it done. And the government goes, yeah, right away, because that's who they work for. It's Foster Graham's pyramid of control. Power comes from the top down. The people are at the bottom, the 99%. And then, of course, you have the military and enforcement here, and then you have government, and then what was it? Corporations, banks, etc. And I believe at the top is that one guy, Satan. Power comes from the top down. It's like a pyramid scheme. It's a business operation. And government's job is to make it look like, oh, this is for the good of the people. Again, I've never seen anything good government has done. I've never seen anything that government's done that's turned out to be like top notch, right? The other day I saw a meme, and the meme was Britain creates the state of Palestine, and then chaos ensues, and the government's like, oh, chaos for 76 years ensues, and calamity, and what was it? The Nakba, the catastrophe. It's like one long, drawn-out catastrophe for the Palestinian people, and ultimately the world. Like Ken O'Keefe says, Gaza. They want to bring Gaza to us. That's just the testing ground. That's just the first, 1.0 of the lockdown state, of the prison state that they want to bring, right? God bless Palestinians for being at ground zero for 76 years and enduring the bullshit. Unbelievably strong people. I can't even imagine it. I do have empathy for other countries. I do have empathy for other countries. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right about that. Imagine screaming about China, then buying a red hat made in China. Yeah. I don't know if the hats are made in China. Are they made in the US? It might be that they dotted the I's and crossed the T's on that one and had them made in the US. I don't know, but you might be right. They might be made over there. Accepting responsibility is the first step to change. I will not apologize for the destruction of an enemy. Yeah. No borders, no country. I agree. Like, if we're gonna have a country, let's at least defend the borders. And again, but they couldn't defend the borders because they needed the people to overwhelm the system, and they needed the people to the quote unquote illegal immigrants to come in and cause problems, which again, I don't know if they were causing problems or if it was, covert action agencies inside of our own country causing those problems and putting the blame on them to stoke the fire for Americans, to make Americans beg for a surveillance state. I hope Americans are waking up, because whatever Trump is pushing is just Patriot Act 2.0. That's what it looks like. Yeah, deploy in the whole Middle East so we can save a gallon of gas. Yeah, rob and pillage those countries. Unbelievable. And I think it's bigger than that. I think they want a totalitarian one world system, clearly, and those countries, Iraq, Libya. And I'm conflicted, and Iran, and Iran's like the last one in, what was it, in early 2000s, there were like 5 countries without a Rothschild central bank, and now there's 1. Well, 2 if you count North Korea. again, I don't know. I don't claim to know what's going on. I mean, Iran could already be occupied. I've seen people talking about that. We apparently went in and through covert action back in what was it, the 50s, put a friendly guy toward the West in. I don't know if that's still going down. I'm suspect of all of it. Well, if following the law is shady, then we are not the same kind of people. Not every country on the planet enforces the law. Why should we? LOL. Again, I question people making the laws. I really do. So if Epstein says that someone is a good guy, that holds merits. No, it's just we got to take in information. I never discount any information. All information goes into the hopper, and then I get a better result. So it's just part of the, it's part of the game. You got to, if you want to know the truth, you probably have to look at a lot of places and take a lot of information in. Yeah, yeah, egghead. Yep. I appreciate people who are beginning to see Trump for the bigoted, misogynistic, selfish, narcissist, dastardly he is. Yeah, it is happening. I'm one of them. You know what got me? What got me was, okay, so prior to Trump, I didn't pay attention to media or politics for like 20 years. That long ago, I realized, oh, you guys are super negative, speaking mainly of media, but also politics. They just doesn't interest me. Super negative. You just spin the wheel round and round, dangle the carrot round and round. So I just lived my life. The reason I bought the Trump BS initially in 2016 was he wasn't a politician. And I was like, oh, this again, that's the level I was at in my awakening. I believed it. I was like, oh, we finally have someone who's not a politician to come in, because and most people have realized politicians are, talk about losers. They're clearly not working for us. And then after, again, looking at the fruits, giving the millions of dollars to the pharmaceutical industry, objectively the worst corporation on the planet, based on fines from the Department of Justice, is wild. It is wild. I don't know how they didn't get the Department of Justice on the horn 40 years ago and say, hey, don't ever fine pharma industries, because we want to make them look like they're the bee's knees, because we want to make people believe in the VACCINES. I don't know how they didn't cover that base, but they didn't. And I'm glad they didn't, because it is probably the most smoking gun of all things that will convince people that there's a problem. So objectively, the worst corporation on the planet, he gives them millions of dollars, or billions, excuse me. And I'm like, oh, that's sketchy. And then, looking into all of the, he did throw a couple of concessions with telling the WEF to shove it, and the historic black colleges. My understanding is he forgave some of the loans or all the loans, but behind the scenes, enriching the pharmaceutical industry, the pharma industrial complex. That's not a good scene. And now he's doing the surveillance state stuff, and then he dropping bombs on Iran. So it's, yeah, I mean, it just adds up. Yeah. Trump is king. He does believe he is, that's for sure. We never locked down a single day in 3 years. I'm in Pennsylvania. Amen to that, and good for you. Sadly, I didn't in 2020, I knew they were up to something. I just didn't know what it was. Again, I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about it. But again, like Maya Angelou says, when a person shows you who they are, believe them. I think she said it. The government had already shown me who they are. I didn't trust them. But in 2020, I knew something was up. In 2021, when they rolled out I was not afraid of anything, because I was like, oh, they're up to something. I did mask up because of social pressures going into stores, etc. Again, I wish I hadn't now, but I did play along on occasion when I needed to, but I didn't believe in it. And in 2021, I was like, oh shit, what is going on here? And I just watched in kind of horror the thing unfolding, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening here? But that's the mass formation psychosis that went down. But I applaud you for, standing strong. I had friends that stood up against the masks and the, silliness of it all. And I appreciate those people, and I herald them. Call it what it is, treason. Yeah, it does appear that way. One of the reasons why I don't come down hard on anything, and this is just my nature, is I'm a human being and I could get things wrong. So I don't mean to not make a bold stance. I will always say this, like, it appears to be this way. Like, it appears to be that they're hosing us over. It appears to be that they're trying to create a police state in the United States and like do some bad things to us. Because the government doesn't do these things to unblack people. Yeah, I don't disagree with that statement. Mm-hmm. Hey, I appreciate your comment. All right. Well, I appreciate all the engagement. Lots of good stuff here in the comments. Thanks for sharing your input, and thanks for hanging out with me. Stay safe and aware out there, my friends, and I'll talk to you in the next one. All the best to you, health, wealth, and success. Thanks for engaging. I appreciate you. Have an awesome day.